Hello, and you're listening to the Book Was Better podcast, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke.
I'm Paris.
And this week we're talking about Event Horizon. Whoa.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand and trust me, the book was better.
Well, holy crap. Now, this is an absolute treat. First time here in the... to call it a studio would be kind of generous.
Oh, definitely.
It's not behind the curtain. It's not that pretty. It's a bit of a Wizard of Oz situation.
I enjoy it.
Just a little old man behind the curtain. Behind all this, like, whiz-bang production. But yeah, Paris, this is wonderful to have you on board.
Thanks for having me.
Because you are, again, someone that I've worked with in other capacities. One, you're a member of our proud, absolutely sort of demolishing the competition quiz night team.
Yes.
So we've got that covered. Also, I photographed you, you've modelled and dressed up as certain characters and stuff. In fact, I think that's how we got in contact initially.
Yes. Yeah, I'm my power girl.
Your power girl. Yeah, I like a power girl. Saw that all came together. And since then as well, I have become friends with your partner, Zach, who's going to be joining us next week. So this is just insane.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see him do it.
What a gift you are. How do you think you'll go, like, out of 10? Because I'm pitting you together against each other here.
Well, I'll set the standards really high for him then.
Yeah.
So then I'll just seem better in comparison.
Yeah. I feel like we can only keep one. So I wanted to see. I could have had you on together, and then I thought, no, selfish reasons, I need to have you separate because that's 2 episodes I get. But then I thought, yeah, let's, pit these two together and against each other and just sort of see how strong their convictions are and how strong the relationship really is.
Yeah, no,
see if you come out the other side. Excellent. And Halloween is over. Mm-hmm. It was on the weekend. It's done. But I feel there was still a little bit of spooky juice to be kind of wrung out of the pumpkin.
Yeah, definitely.
As it were. And you suggested this film/book, Event Horizon. Why this one?
Well, I've been doing a movie marathon for Halloween, so I was trying to watch a movie a night, a horror movie a night, but it was just on my radar.
I was pretty thrilled when you mentioned it. I thought this was pretty exciting. I remember watching this when it came out as a new release on video. Might have even been like just beforehand, and my girlfriend at the time was working at a video store, so you would get sometimes like the free movie, and sometimes just a little bit before it came out. So this was a real treat, and I remember being a little bit spooked by it, which I don't know if it's like being 20 years older or being on emotion flattening antidepressant medication, but yeah, did not have the slightest reaction to it this time.
I think I was about 4 years old when it first came out, so
okay.
I didn't watch it then, but I was working at a DVD store and it came in and it was priced at $4.98, which was the cheapest DVD that had ever come through our store ever. So I was like, I need to watch this.
The price is right.
Yeah, and it didn't disappoint.
No, it's pretty great. I was excited about it. We're able to get hold of it. It's by Stephen E. McDonald, who has only written 4 other books, which really surprised me. Or only 4 books in total, I think, which did surprise me until I started to read it and then thought, oh, okay, I can see maybe what the problem is here. The other ones are The Janus Syndrome. No one wants a syndrome in their Janus. Supernova and Way Station, which is based on Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda series, which I have never seen. Has that got like a Sorbo or something in it? I might be thinking of something else. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past it. So we've got a lot to talk about this spooky ghost spaceship flying through space. This is a haunted house movie in space where the house is a spaceship.
What more could you want?
Perfect. So let's go for it. Let's read the beginning, and it's a prologue. Space is deep.
Floating down through night, this thought came unbidden, shot across confusion.
The darkness was impossible, filling the universe, pouring down and through, overwhelming.
Beneath the cloak of reason rose mindless fear, a chilling wave that subsumed everything that constituted rationality and intelligence.
Vertigo followed, the non-world spinning, passing by in an unbearable rush, no beginning, no end.
Space is deep.
The darkness faded, blurring.
All movement and starlight flared.
There was no warmth to be drawn from the brightness, nothing but cold that could eat through to the soul, cocooning it in ice.
The scientific mind could find a loophole in the terror by speculating about this phenomenon, feverishly working to reduce it as a set of statistics.
Of course it was cold. Out here in vacuum, the temperature would barely be above absolute zero.
Space is deep.
That whisper again, seeming to fill the universe.
Floating, turning in this unreality, protected against the cold and vacuum.
No control, no volition, turning against will.
Blue filled the starscape, coruscated became a glowing blue orb.
I have no idea what the fuck either of us just said.
It's more than that. It keeps going as well.
I know it. There's a whole lot of, you're like, it's like watching a merry-go-round go round and you're like standing there going, I'm going to jump on it. No, I'll get the next horse. No, I'll get the next one. But I am going to get on this ride eventually. And then you realize you never, ever get on the ride. And each horse is more confusing than the next.
When I first read it, because he also mentions things being blue in space, I think about 15 times in the prologue. Like I counted because it was a lot. And I sort of feel like he just Googled space and it was like, space is pretty deep. And it's blue, and he just went with that for the entire book.
Yeah, like, there's going to be a lot of parallels with this story and Aliens, which we did on a recent podcast. And what I also realised is, what's worse than Alan Dean Foster's obtuse overwritten prose is somebody aping Alan Dean Foster's obtuse overwritten prose. And this definitely is Diet Foster. Foster's Light.
Yeah, definitely.
And none of it really makes any sense. We're kind of just flailing until we meet the main character of the book, the ghost ship, or ghost spaceship, space ghost ship. I don't know. It has many names.
There was a dark spot against the blue, drifting, turning, moving closer now, close enough to make out the outlines of a vessel, sharp and clear. Another familiarity in this unfamiliar terrain. Angles formed of titanium, steel, and plastic. Not a small ship, this drifting spaceship. It had never been intended as a compact craft. A gothic complexity from end to end, it reflected the passion and strangeness of its designers and builders, the inner world of its primary creator.
It's an odd ship, isn't it? It's not like... You think of the future in space, everything's sort of sleek and wonderful, and this thing looks like H.R. Geiger has taken a shit. Like a bit broke off Tim Burton's Batman set.
Yeah, they're very preoccupied with the aesthetic of this one, I think.
Yeah. And there's we sort of go inside the ship and there's a frozen spaceman on there, locked in panic, and it's revealed that
the eyes were gone, torn away, the eye sockets somehow blackened as though by cauterizing. Death had been traumatic and swift. The victim caught and frozen in the act of screaming. Turning, the corpse drifted closer, the face recognizable enough to, despite the mutilation. Space is deep.
However, this book is not. Gotta love that coda. That's when you know that, one, you're reading a novelization for adults, and two, that the writer's really going to try and polish this thing up and really try and go, look, I might be doing a novelization here, but I'm going to try and write this like a real book. I'm going to use some devices. I love that enthusiasm, but it's rookie enthusiasm. It never lasts throughout the whole thing. They always give up on it and just end up aping the script.
Definitely, yeah, that's noticeable later on.
I'm saying aping a lot. I think I've got crazy apes on my brain after whatever crazy... Oh, Dunstan checks in. That was fantastic. So, this is the nightmare of Dr. William Weir, played by
Sam Neill.
beautiful Sam Neill. He's an Australian, isn't he? Is he? Or is he from New Zealand?
I don't know. He has an Australian armband in the movie, but all the actors, well, I think they're all playing their original nationality, and they all have the flag of their country on their arm, but it's got a political change on the armband. So his is the Australian flag, but it's got the Indigenous flag instead of the Union Jack. So they all have something. I don't know about the other ones, but they all have something that suggests that in the future some political changes.
I didn't notice that. That's kind of cool. I think it's great just to have an Australian going to go and take on the ghosts in this ghost ship. Oh, come on, you ghosts! Come on, we'll have a go with you. Come the raw prawn with Dr. William Weir. He's the disgraced creator of the lost Event Horizon. Event Horizon is the ghost ship. It's been lost for many years. But forget that. Sam Neill, Australian, second best Australian actor after Sam Wortho probably. Both Sams.
Ongoing theme.
Yep. And a ghost ship. But the author is immediately more focused on yet another new character, the Ceiling.
Oh, finally.
Lying on his bed, sheets rumpled around his slender body, he stared at the dimly seen ceiling of his studio apartment. This part of Awakening had become ritualistic over the years. The ceiling was his icon, his mandala, so lacking in features that he discovered that it helped him focus. Over the years, the ceiling had helped him find his way to one idea after another. You know more about the movie than I do. Who did play the Ceiling in this film?
It was Wortho, right?
Might have been it was probably a very flat actress.
Keira Knightley.
Yes. That'd be great role for an up-and-coming actor.
She'd probably stuff it up still.
They were very good, I thought. We've had cat-tagonists. I don't know if we've ever had a ceiling-tagonist. Where the author has really gotten us into the mindset of the ceiling. And I thought I wanted to hear Sam Neill singing Hooked on a Ceiling. I thought that would have been really, really fantastic because obviously he loves it. But there's something else he loves and it's absent. He's waken up alone and this is why.
He put the photograph aside, opened his eyes again. Nothing had changed. Nothing ever changed. Nothing ever would. The rules of his physical world did not permit such things and would not permit him to turn back time. In his world, there was no higher power than the laws of physics.
Don't you feel like more books should take time to inform us which characters are governed by the laws of physics, and what those rules entail?
Yeah, I'm always asking the question. I'm always, wondering who has and who isn't governed by the laws of physics. So.
How much easier would, Superman be to stomach as a movie if at the beginning they put up little Scott Pilgrim-esque captions which said Lois Lane cannot turn back time, Clark Kent / Superman possibly could turn back time if the need arose, and you'd be like, oh, all right.
Yeah, no, it'd make so much more sense.
Back to the Future. I actually think there's less characters that can turn back time than can't.
It's not really something that needs to be specified.
Play the odds. But no, seriously, this is really weird writing. He walked into the bathroom, habitually making a quarter turn to go through the narrow doorway, not bothering to close the door. A quick leak in slow motion, then a quick body wash that sloughed away the traces of sweat along with any accumulated grime. So, firstly, thank you for explaining what body wash does.
Yes, finally.
They're two words I know.
Yeah.
Put them together. What? I don't know. How do you have a quick leak in slow motion?
That's probably one of my favourite parts.
I've been trying.
They didn't show it in the movie as well, so... Because I was waiting to see it.
I wanted to have it explained because I've been trying to do it every morning since I read the book, and the bathroom's a mess. And he then shaves for a page.
Yeah.
Is it prom night? What's going on here? He gets right into it, and then he makes breakfast in real time.
Yeah.
So definitely a lot of padding going on here.
I got to this point and I was sort of thinking... it's taken him 20 pages to get out of bed, and I was like, I'm pretty sure they're meant to be going to hell and back.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was a bit worried at that point that I wasn't going to finish the book.
Especially when you're reading it like as an ebook.
Yeah.
You're thinking, this is happening. You don't have that physical volume, so you think, this is a 50,000 page book.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of other stuff beyond shaving and breakfast
Yeah.
that has to happen in this story. But again, it's that rookie enthusiasm, where it's like, oh God, like I don't want to run out of words and, you know, I don't want to run out of script and I've got to write this whole novel, so I'm really going to get in there. Doesn't last. Absolutely will rush through later on. Turns out Sam Neill, he's on Daylight Station, which is a space station floating above the Earth, and it's got a lot of high-tech gadgetry, like this little bugger.
The video phone buzzed angrily, startling him.
I find that weird writing as well. Like, why doesn't he go into settings and choose a ringtone that's less angry? Like a soothing marimba or something? Because that's the thing. They tend to, like, just ring or buzz the same way every time. I don't think... Unless the future video phones have emotions, they make it... Well, what about that?
Like, depending on the call you're going to get.
Yes! Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I just wouldn't answer it.
Yeah, well, you'd be able to really screen stuff, wouldn't you? You'd be like, oh, that person's pissed off. Or, like, what if you got a really, like, amorous ring and you're like, yeah.
Like, what, someone died?
Oh, yeah, bad news. You'd, like, play the funeral march and you'd be like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to pick that up. Grandpa has been looking a little bit peaky lately. Interesting. I think, let's patent that. Let's get Apple on the line. But he is summoned to see Admiral Hollis. And I didn't realise that, until I watched the film afterwards, that none of this is in the film where he goes and sees the Admiral.
Yeah, because when I was reading it, I hadn't seen the film in a while, and I thought for so long that this was Lawrence Fishburne's character. And then, yeah, completely just not in the film.
And it's funny because it's actually not a bad bit of exposition and setup, and the film feels a bit weird without it.
Yeah.
And do you think it was just because this really is beat for beat aliens? Like, it's a character, has a nightmare about some horrible thing, wakes up, gets called in by some important people who go, look, we want to send you to this floating dangerous ship out there, and goes, okay, and goes. Like, it really is beat for beat, but they kind of cut that out, and Sam Neill just appears on the... Well, we're gonna get there. But he's summoned to see Admiral Hollis, and...
Weir stood uncertainly in the centre of the USAC seal that had, in flagrant waste of taxpayers' money, been printed into the synthetic fibre carpet.
Well, he was more of a ceiling man. We've established this.
Waste of money.
Absolutely. Had no interest in carpet. Behind the desk, in the pool of light cast by his desk lamp, sat Admiral John Hollis, looking like a bear, considering mayhem. So, picturing him with the leather vest, the studded belts, he's got the big hairy belly, he's holding an extra large bottle of lubricant.
Oh, that's my favourite line. It just, I mean, because I consider like an actual bear just sitting like in the woods, just thinking about causing shit, pretty much.
He's sitting there with a huge pot of honey.
Yeah.
with his big paw in the honey, just putting it into his mouth. Anyway, the missing Event Horizon, which is a ship designed to go faster than light, seems to have reappeared, and the audio response that they've received from it is a guaranteed willy giver.
Screeching, chattering voices barely heard that chilled him to the bone and sent the hair on his arms and the back of his neck prickling up. He found himself gripping the sides of the chair, his hands locked. The terrible mixture of sounds suddenly broke, plunging back to nothing more than static. Ware sank back into his chair, limp, shaken by the sounds he had heard. Something in those voices had somehow reached into him, touching the cold parts of his soul.
You see, that's the thing. When this author is actually kind of focused and not trying to, like, embroider a doily around the story, it doesn't do a terrible job.
Yeah, there's some good bits in there.
It's just when he flies too close to the sun, it all goes to crap. So Weir wants to go with a salvage crew to investigate the ship. A crew of... They're miners, aren't they?
Yeah, something like that.
They're all under 18. And he wants to go because he has lost his lady. That's the trouble with women, Hollis thought sourly, glancing down at the pale patch on his left ring finger. Men will go right up to the gates of hell for them, no questions asked. 22 years getting one finger indented. A couple of years did little to erase the mark. He felt for Weir. Marks upon the soul could never be erased. Women! Even in a weightless environment, they have such a heavy burden.
This makes me think that she was on the ship.
I did too, yeah. I absolutely did as well. I was quite shocked later on.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like he's like going to save her. I don't understand why that's his calling if she's not even going to be there.
And that he's guilty that she got on the ship and left.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with the...
No, just blame it. Blame her anyway.
Yeah. And plus, it's not a gender issue. Like, he's this sort of character that if his son was out there or something, I reckon he would go and look for his son.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought at the time. I mean, it's about having a loved one, I thought. It's not just because she's a woman. It's not like he would do it for any woman. Like Pam in Space Accounting, who's like gone missing, and, you know? I didn't get it at all. But the ship they're travelling in is the Lewis and Clark, and it's captained by Miller. There's your Fishburne.
Yes.
And I thought this was some pretty decent writing. I like this description of the Lewis and Clark.
Inside, she was no great comfort. Captain Miller, poised loosely in his con as he tried to remain relaxed, looked down on his demesnes. Behind thick quartz windows in the noise, the bridge was a compacted nightmare of instruments on 2 horseshoe levels. Operators' chairs seemed to have been wedged into the best available positions that might still allow some movement, suggesting that the human component had been the last consideration here.
Yeah, I like that. That sort of feeling about, not just a description, but why, like the function of it. We'll make fun of bad writing, but if a little bit of good writing slips in through the cracks, we're going to give it praise. And just like in Aliens, now we've got the task of having to get familiar with a crew. We need to know who all these characters are so that it's important, you know, we understand when they die who we've lost. So, Stark. She's an angular lady and assumedly has no skills because...
She was on this crew because Miller had wanted her on this crew, and he had enough clout somewhere to get away with demanding that she be assigned to the Lewis and Clark.
Yeah, so she's very attractive, but she was basically all, I don't know those spaceships.
He treats her like shit the whole time. Like, I think she was his punching bag, and that's why he wanted her on there, just to vent.
Like a large couple of stress balls.
Yeah.
There's Smith, the pilot. He's described as an abrupt, stiff man. How stiff, you ask?
Smith tilted his head back, looking up at the captain's position. I can't believe this. I haven't gotten more than my hand in 6 weeks, and now this shit.
Okay, so...
Played by, who, I can't remember his name, but he's currently Alfred on Gotham.
Oh, right, that guy.
Yeah.
That geezer.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah, he looked familiar to me, and I couldn't pick it. Interesting. Well, look, he's in a tight position here. He's raring to go. There's Justin, who is fresh-faced and puppy-like. There's Cooper, who is tall, black, and bald, and listening to a jam box.
When was this made again?
You know, the future is all jam boxes. A jam box. Crikey. And then Peters, who's another lady, she's basically doing menial tasks like loading carbon dioxide scrubbers into the ventilation system backup. But she is a woman, and I would journey through the gates of hell for her. And then a DJ, the ship's doctor, and hopefully they also have Doctor, who's the ship's DJ, who will pump up those jam boxes later on, crank out some fat beats. And DJ's played by...
Lucius Malfoy?
Yeah, Jason Isaacs.
That's the one.
Who, did you see him at, was it Supernova or Comic-Con? I think it was Supernova.
No, I didn't.
He's very sharp, funny, charming man, actually. I had a bit of a man crush on him at the end of it. And Weir is here as well, Sam Neill, as they set off on their spooky spaceship adventure, why isn't that the title of the film?
I think I would have watched it earlier.
It would appeal to more people because people would understand. Event Horizon, what does that mean? Nothing. Spooky spaceship adventure. Got it. I'm there. Space jam box. They are getting the needle from DJ, so he's injecting them all and preparing them to go to sleep on their gravity couches for their trip. So aliens. This is all just aliens.
Miller turned his head, his expression darkening. Weir was approaching, an almost pleading look on his face. He'd stripped down to his black bikini underwear.
Now, that is an image of Sam Neill that is more chilling than anything else in this book.
I had to stop and reread that a few times because it's just such... I mean, I don't really understand male underwear terms, but it's just weird. It's just...
Doesn't it mean like a really like high cut at the side? Like
I think so.
all the thighs going?
That's another alien thing, right?
Just a string, basically. And were you waiting for it in the film? Were you like... Did you have trepidation as that scene was coming up? Like,
I couldn't think about anything else.
Is Sam Neill just going to strut out? And, like, can you imagine that if that was just a quirk of Sam Neill characters? Like Richard Hammond's, like, come to Jurassic Park, you're the expert and everything. And then he turns up to the helicopter pad in these, like, little black bikinis and he's like, whoa! And he's just like, it's going to be warm on the island. Relax. This is what I wear. Because he's right, he's in this room with all the others. And he's making... That's a statement.
Yeah, definitely.
You may as well have like a...
You don't wear those by accident.
No. It's like a... You may as well have been wearing like a leopard skin posing pouch.
And I read that they had to cut a lot out of this film to get a lower rating for it. And I think that was one of the things that was cut out of the film.
Yeah, that was definitely...
Too sexy.
Going to push it. Well, look, he's an Australian. He's got his budgie smugglers on. He's out there going, come on, I'm going to hit the pool after this. What you worried about? Oh, I sleep in me undies, in me decks, me underdecks. And during the sleep, Weir awakens, or does he? I'm not sure. But whatever it is, it's something spooky.
Water dripped to the floor of the bridge, making pools, running in rivulets along the plating. The pilot's chair was soaked, streaming. A woman sat in the chair, her too pale skin drenched, glittering, her sodden hair plastered to her naked back. As though rooted to the deck, Weir stood and stared. Uncertainly, he whispered, Claire?
The missing wife. Although, you know, this soaking wet woman sitting on a chair sounds a little bit Flashdance to me. It's kind of cool. And yes, this is a spooky harbinger of the nightmares to come. The planes and contours of her face were shifting as though something lived under the skin, in the bone, and was pushing angrily to be free. The fear welled up in a dark torrent now, soul poisonous and choking. Panicking, he spun her chair, making it rock on its gimbals. Claire stared up at him. I'm waiting, she said, and the sound filling this reality with undertones of screaming, hissing, crawling voices. His soul splintered. The darkness swept through him. My God, even in death she is nagging him. Crazy. No wonder he wants to get away on his lost ship.
Well, that's why he got on the ship, not to go to her, to get away from her.
To go to hell. Hell and back. So they all wake up. They're about to start their mission, but there is one important thing to take care of first.
Smith was the first one through the exit, followed closely by Stark, Justin, and DJ. Miller turned to follow, then swung back, his face a study in thunder. And Coop, the captain added, giving Cooper's crotch a withering glance, put some pants on.
Another cut they had to make, obviously.
That's the second time that Lawrence Fishburne's character is described as thundery, because he gets called Angry Thunder earlier on as well.
Everything was angry in this.
Yeah.
I noticed.
Yeah.
You can't blame him, though. I mean, old Cooper's running around without pants on. Every time he turns around, he knocks over a whole row of coffee mugs. Big problem for everybody. Very distracting.
And they said it was a small ship, so...
That's right. It wasn't built for people, and certainly wasn't... I think if a crotch was ever worthy of a withering glance, Cooper's was at this moment. So, Peters watches a video of her young handicapped son, Denny. And I thought, hang on, is this actually a prequel to The Room? Is that what really lies beyond the gates of hell? This small apartment that they can't get out of, presided over by the withered demon that is Tommy Wiseau.
I would hope so. That would make it a lot better.
I think it would probably just take a fan edit to get these two films together, and it would be wonderful. So, yes, the event horizon actually travels through dimensional gateways, which Weir demonstrates by folding a pin-up. And I was disappointed. I'm thinking, no Mad magazines around? Surely in the future there would still be Mad magazines. Yeah. Say on the cover, $33 cheap. And I was disappointed as well in the film when he does this. It's a clothed pin-up.
Yeah.
I wanted to see like a really amusing kind of like trying to push a boob through something. Yeah, didn't happen. And they prep by listening to more Event Horizon recordings.
Weir tapped another key. If the first recording had spooked the crew of the Lewis and Clark, this one shook them to their core. It was a howl from a soul abandoned and despairing on the fair edge of hell.
Yeah, not exactly easy listening. Don't you feel like he's really like blown his load early? He's already said about hell and souls and despairing and everything, and now he has to keep upping the ante, and he's still got quite a journey to go, so be interesting to see what he has to pull out of the bag later. And here, finally, is the Event Horizon in all its glory. They arrive. The Event Horizon could easily have swallowed the Lewis and Clark, taken it in without anyone noticing it. Weir and his team had created something that was more gothic monstrosity than spacecraft, a thing of arching girders and strange angles of darkness and depth that the naked eye and unaided mind could not estimate. The clouds had swirled away from the starship, leaving it at the eye of the storm, but this did not aid in perception. And then I thought, no, actually, Justin, he explains it far better than the author here.
Justin had gotten himself into a position to see the Event Horizon. He stared at it for a few moments, his mouth working. Finally, he said, "Jesus, that is one big, ugly, fat fucker."
There's your tagline on the poster. I think that would be fantastic. Event Horizon. Jesus, that is one big, ugly, fat fucker. So, Weir, Cooper, and Miller, they are the lucky three who get to put on the old spacesuits and investigate the ship. Weir turned his head, taking in the different displays. 3 of them were direct video feeds. Time code and names had been overlaid in the lower right corner. The monitor for Miller's video feed was directly in front of Weir, so this is still absolutely aliens. Like, that's what happens. That initial group goes off, they've got the video monitors, and then shit goes down, and so I didn't remember the movie at this stage as I'm reading, but I'm already like, nice knowing you, Justin. You are screwed. Out of all these characters, you're not bloody Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
You're just some dude, and you are screwed, pal. So, what is the first thing they find on the good ship Spooky Shit?
Miller edged down, closer, focusing on the object. It was small and white. A human tooth, complete with the root.
That's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Just floating around.
It's pretty specific thing, like human part to find.
In space.
Quite small.
Hear you chew. Snatched it out of the air and then put a shiny quarter in its place. Spookily, there appears to be no other human presence as they move through the ship, but at least not humans that they are aware of.
She turned to move deeper into the bridge, leaving behind, high up on the wall, unnoticed, a frozen mass of blood and tissue that had once been a living human being.
I don't know why, but that didn't sit right with me in a book. Like, I know in the movie you're able to do that. A lady's able to, like, stand there and then you pan up and you show this thing. But I feel like we're sort of seeing this now through the eyes of those characters, and we shouldn't be told about these things that they're not aware of. Like, it feels strange to me.
It doesn't affect them if they can't see. I don't think it's mentioned again.
No, it makes it feel like the author's kind of having a wink, having a lend. And I'm like, no, let's just stick with what they know instead. And then they find the ship's log, but...
A tiny laserdisc emerged halfway from the unit, jamming there. Peters grasped it carefully and pulled, but the disc would not move any further. She tugged it again, frustrating herself in the effort.
So this is a future where we've solved interdimensional travel, but not physical media. Same thing happened in Aliens, this idea that we'll still have physical media, but it'll be really small. Laser discs are the future, but they'll be tiny.
I don't feel like they even tried to make it futuristic. Like, if something was set like 50 years from now, you wouldn't say, like, they pulled out their iPhone 6. Like, at least try. Like, might get an iPhone 20.
Yeah.
There's no effort. They were just like, this is as far as it gets.
Yeah. I can't imagine anything beyond that. Laserdiscs will be small and you'll buy them in rolls like mints.
And it doesn't
They'll
even
be about
work
the same size.
in this.
No chance.
Yeah.
And there's something else floating around in here as well. She turned helplessly, only to find herself being struck by something with considerable mass. Holding onto the laserdisc with her right hand, she reached out with her left, grasping cloth, probably touching cloth. And beneath that something hard, a face came into view, lit brightly by her helmet lamps. Why can't I get helmet lamps? A man's face, contorted, mouth open, swollen, tongue protruding. The veins stood out, bloated and frozen, all over his face and neck. And quite ominously, his eyes are gouged out, which is something I considered doing to myself before getting to the end of this book.
Yeah, I was going to do that. I heard, on the previous podcast that some people do a bit of cosplay.
Yeah, they do.
So I was going to, get naked and gouge my eyes out, just like in the film.
What an absolute missed opportunity. Well, look, if the moon takes you, well, we've still got a bit of a journey. We're not there yet. And there, at the core, is the core. The core of the ship, the gravity core, which is basically the ship's evil heart.
At the centre of the second containment, as black as midnight, was an unholy-looking construction. Justin estimated it to be at least 10 metres in diameter, perhaps larger, a broad torus covered on the outside by a series of spikes, occupied on the inside by a huge dark sphere that resembled nothing more than a rotted, mottled orange. Trying to make sense of the construction, Justin felt his sense of perspective being twisted around. He felt faintly sick.
Yeah, what the fuck was with the design there? Like, what? There's all these spikes coming out of the walls and floor, and the doors have spikes on them.
But also, I don't like, if you're saying something spiky and intimidating, and then you say a rotten orange, like, they're so different.
That's true. That is very true. Like, one sort of looks like Pinhead was the architect from Hellraiser, and the other's like something you'd find like under the back seat of your car. Kind of weird. And Justin kind of is the first to go because he utilizes the Prometheus method of taking what you don't understand and poking your finger into it, which is actually like my first few relationships.
Then the power, a force beyond reckoning that reached around him. I can't read this without thinking of it in that context. Intruded into his universe.
Yes.
Enveloping him without pause for consent or complaint.
A non-consenting intrusive reach around.
The void rose up around him, embracing.
This does sound a lot like those early encounters.
Justin fell into the space between the worlds and was gone. Reality began to tremble around the core.
Yeah. Always a little bit awkward your first time, Justin. I wouldn't worry about it. Just disappear into that void and try not to think about it. And a reality wave rips up the Lewis and Clark, forcing them all onto the event horizon. They all have to go to Spooky Ship Central, where the gravity and stuff is activated so that they don't have to spend the rest of the book and film in their suits. Although here, and I don't think this happens in the film, we get to see a bit of Justin in the other dimension.
Dark, dark, deep in the dark. He was within, suspended, the dark passing through him, stripping him naked, peeling out the contents of his mind, pouring the pieces of his soul into a pool that floated into nothing.
I touch all things.
Who are you?
I am.
Another answer that made no sense.
The darkness had no end.
Innocence.
The concept seemed almost a curse. What was wrong with purity?
You know too well where the line is drawn.
Points of light pierced the darkness.
There was a sound of pain, of anguish.
I studied theatre, and this sounds like every first-year self-written play that I have sat through.
I also studied theatre. I did contemporary theatre, so it sounds like every third-year play that I sat through.
Darkness, innocence, daddy.
I can see everyone's in all black.
Yes.
They've got the torches.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful work. And but Justin, this surprised me. He does return from the other dimension, but something about him has changed. Justin had retreated somewhere deep inside himself, Peters thought. He had seen something, heard something, been somewhere that his conscious mind could not accept, and this condition was his best defense. So, yeah, it's getting kind of spooky here. I'm getting into the pointy end of this story. And Weir refuses to believe that Justin went into the core, and then he grudgingly reveals that the core's job, it actually creates a black hole. But more important to us now, and for the listeners, I think they'll enjoy this a little bit more than the pseudo-scientific explanation, we get the scary visions that begin happening to the crew, starting with Peters, who sees her son, Denny.
Then she saw what she had missed before, where Denny's atrophied legs should have been. Beneath the plastic, something was squirming frantically, like a bag of angry snakes, the plastic pulsing up and down. Horrified, she dropped the plastic sheet, backing away. This could not have been Denny. Her son was on Earth with his father.
What's horrifying about that? All kids play with themselves. They all explore. You give him a complex about it, you're going to be weird. It could be innocent. It could be like George Costanza cleaning his glasses under the hairdresser smock. I don't know. And it's funny because in the movie, you get to see his legs.
Yeah, they're all rotten.
Yeah. But here, it's really, really vague.
Yeah.
Just this like bouncing blanket thing. And I feel like this vagueness is really symptomatic of the way that now even the author feels like he's rushing through the second half just to get it done. So it's like he made a really large meal of the first half and he's now shitting out the second.
Because I read it and then I watched the movie straight after. And this part is about 2/3 into the book and it's about the first 10-15 minutes of the movie.
Because the movie didn't spend half an hour with Sam Neill shaving.
Missed opportunity.
He's a hairy man, but come on. And in a dark tunnel, Weir has another vision of his dead wife.
Be with me, Claire whispered, and he almost screamed. The flashlight flickered to life, wet hair hanging like seaweed in her ashen face. Claire stared at him inches away. Forever, she said softly.
And the author seems to think that the spooky thing about all this is that she is wet, not that her eyes are missing, something which the movie makes a big deal about. And he doesn't even seem to mention, which makes me wonder, like, was this a very early version where they decided that she had eyes still, or...
Eyes are a big theme in this as well. You got missing eyes, there's black eyes at some point.
Yeah.
And I think she had white eyes. I don't know.
But then when we find out what happened to her, it's got nothing to do with her eyes.
Yeah.
So it is strange. And then Captain Miller sees a man that he left to burn in a prior spaceship mishap. And I think Spaceship Mishap's another great title for this film. The glow at the core resolved into a humanoid figure consumed by fire. The sounds of inferno filled the air and Miller felt a wave of heat pass over him. The figure lifted a blazing arm, fire dripping from it like water, pointing at Miller. The Holocaust whispered, "Don't leave me." Miller squeezed his eyes shut, his chest hollow. When he opened his eyes again, the burning man was gone. We get a page of shaving and a couple of sentences of burning man. It's ridiculous. And then I thought, maybe it's not so bad. What if it's the charming Johnny Storm, as played by Chris Evans, ready to do his shaving foam trick? I think that would be beautiful.
That'd be an amazing mashup.
It would be excellent. Because they dimensional travel, the Fantastic Four. I saw that last fucking film. Right, so boiling point now. The crew are going totally nuts.
Continuing his movement, DJ slammed Smith up against the bulkhead, not attempting to soften the impact. His hand blurring, DJ raised the scalpel, pressing the tip of it below Smith's ear. Smith froze in place. DJ, Miller yelled, crossing the bridge. He would never have expected this sort of thing from DJ. Certainly nothing as fast as this. Like, it's really deadly, but the speed...
Yeah.
He's a slow man. DJ took a deep breath, shuddering. He let the scalpel fall to the deck as he stepped back, releasing Smith. DJ looked helplessly at Miller, at Smith. "I'm sorry, I don't know why I did that.
It's the space madness kicking in. All wanting to murder each other now. And look, Justin, he has totally had enough of this crap. He locks himself in the airlock, preparing to suicide.
It gets inside you, Justin said softly. There was no tension in his body. He hung in the microgravity like a mannequin. It shows you things, horrible things.
Sounds a lot like my uncle. I don't even have an uncle, which is why I can make creepy uncle jokes. And although Justin does start to decompress, he actually gets rescued by Miller. And that really surprised me. Like, Justin is living a pretty charmed existence here. Like, you think he's going to be the first one to go, and he almost is, but he keeps getting saved. Even though he's not, like, he's basically a little scrap of meat at this point. He's not really worth saving.
I don't know, like, because in the film, him and Peters, who was like the mothering figure, they call each other Mama Bear and Baby Bear. And the crew calls Justin Baby Bear.
Yeah.
But in the book, it's just Cooper.
Yes.
And he calls him Papa Bear and Baby Bear. And I just feel like they were together.
And all they do is eat porridge.
Yeah, like they really... And they'll like always be like glancing at each other. And there's something there.
I think so too.
I ship it.
Yeah.
I go ship it.
I go ship it. There we go. That's your tagline. So Justin at this point, though, is looking a little rough.
Justin floated in the middle of the compartment, his veins bulging, pinkish ice covering his skin, his face covered with a layer of frozen blood that had streamed from his mouth, nose and eyes. Capillaries had burst everywhere in his face and hands, very likely in other places too.
Whoa.
If he survived this experience, Justin would spend some time looking like a road map of hell.
Look like Bill Murray's cheeks. Here's some food for thought. I am death, the destroyer of worlds, J. Robert Oppenheimer, quoting the... I'm going to brutalise all of these. Bhagavad Gita, dismayed by the explosion of one tiny atomic device. What would he have said to a power source that involved the inescapable energies of a collapsed star? My guess is, fuck! Yeah, that's what Sam Neill would say. Fuck! Look at that! So DJ the Doctor finally figures out the Latin in the recording. The weird voices are speaking Latin.
The final words, DJ hesitated for a moment, then plunged on. They sound like ex inferis? Inferis, the ablative case of Inferni?
We're learning things.
Which means from hell. Save yourself from hell. Miller shook his head, trying to work all of this into something coherent. Same. Stark's telling me the ship is alive. Now you're saying, what are you saying? The ship's possessed?
HMS Hellship in space.
I asked myself a lot, like when I watched this as well, because I was like, is it a ghost? Is it hell? And then at the very end, they mentioned something alien-like. You don't really know what.
Yeah, the book's not explicit either. They never come right out and say it.
Yeah.
But I thought that was the deal, that they'd gone to hell.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Or it brought a bit of hell back with it.
Maybe it's a figurative hell, like save yourself from hell, and then he looks down at his wedding ring. It's like, women! Back in business, Miller said to himself. His ship, his rules. The event horizon could go to hell. It could. That's my theory. I think it can. I think there's a lot of hell references here. That's where the ship goes. And, not much out of context comedy corner in this very serious, scary book. So, might be reaching here. Is this one?
Calmly, a counterpoint to Smith's excitement, Cooper said.
We're still venting trace gases. Give me about 20 minutes to plug the hole. Baby bear. But here is the money shot. This is some of what they see when they finally unscramble the ship's video recording. You mentioned this thing about it being cut.
Yeah, I read as well that they originally had hired real porn stars to play these scenes.
Ah.
So, like, it was really graphic. And there was something about them hiring, like, real amputees, because there's a part where they're all, like, smashing their own legs with hammers.
It does feel like it's really just a very quick montage when you see this in the film. It does feel quite chopped up.
Yeah.
And is the sex obvious in the film? I don't even think I was really...
I think, like, a split second.
Yeah. There was blood everywhere in the image, so much blood. Beyond Kilpack, a man and a woman were engaged in frantic sex. She wrapped around him as he rammed himself into her. Both of them were covered in blood. She had dug her fingernails into his back, tearing into the flesh, leaving gory tears that streamed blood down his back, though he seemed oblivious to either pain or injury. The other man had now forced a good part of his arm down his throat. More blood there, streaming out from his mouth, from his nose. Kilpack turned, smiling. The woman turned her head, opening her mouth. In a blur of motion, she drove her face into her partner's neck, biting down, tearing. A chunk of bleeding flesh fell and struck the deck. Blood pumped freely, spraying her, drenching his shoulder, pouring down his arm. She drove into the wound again, heedless of the blood, tearing the wound wider. His head lolled to one side, loose in death, yet he did not cease his maniacal thrusting. I actually think, and I'm certainly not complaining about this, I think it's a pretty good rule, that if such a scene had existed in the film, it would have been banned in Australia, because my belief is that you cannot have sex and violence like that together.
Oh.
If it's explicit.
I wouldn't be here. So, glad it was cut. Another obvious thing, you know, a lot of blood. I think he really gets stuck on one thing. Like, he's like, Neptune's blue, space is deep, people bleed. Like,
blood is blood.
Yeah.
There's blood. Yeah, you're right. The word blood and bleeding is in there about 25 times. And there's about a page of death sex.
Yeah.
And then the climax is this.
Full fathom 5, thy father lies, Miller remembered. Shakespeare from high school, or perhaps later. The Tempest coming to mind as Kilpack held out his hands. Those are pearls that were his eyes. In the palms of Kilpack's hand, nestled in blood, were his eyes. Held out now like an offering. Where his eyes had been were empty sockets. Lined with torn flesh, blood oozed down over his cheeks, around his mouth, over his chin.
So you've just seen a video of people fucking each other to death and someone rips out their eyes. Are you going to muse about a Shakespeare high school play?
Yeah.
I think the immortal bard said it best. Wouldn't it be just like, holy fucking shit, what are those people doing? Ah!
It doesn't really make me think about anything other than exactly what's happening in front of me. Like, it's not... I remember that time.
That Space Shakespeare in the Space Tempest said, Full fathom 5 thy father lies, am I right, gentlemen? And Miller's response to all this is absolutely perfect.
We're leaving, Miller said, his voice flat.
You always complain about, people doing dumb things in horror movies. No, Lawrence Fishburne, he's not putting up with any of this shit. He looks at the video, he watches it. Yep. Okay, we're off. So, to borrow from Aliens, once again, the crew want to blow up the Event Horizon, but Weir wants to protect his ship, and he starts getting all nutty and fighty and crazy all of a sudden.
And that's the part has my favourite line, one of my many favourite lines. Weir's trying to be like, no, like, we've got to find out what's going on, and it's like his baby, and Miller's just like, fuck this ship. It's just...
Miller's a pretty great character.
He's really good.
You got to give it to him. And then Peters has another vision of her son, and she falls down a hole.
She slammed into the deck in front of the core, feeling her body bend and splinter, the pain terrible for a few moments before it faded into a general numbness. She could not move, could not feel anything. Her breath came raggedly, suffused with blood. Suffused with blood.
Suffused with blood.
Alan Dean Foster. Wait, no, who wrote it again?
It's someone mimicking Alan Dean
yes.
Foster.
Oh, God. Denny, she whispered. A pool of blood was spreading out from under her. Even if she was found now, she knew that nothing could be done for her. She'd fallen too far, too hard. There was too much damage. She wished she could move. 20 metres above her, she could see Denny looking down at her, clapping his hands. He giggled.
Are we sure that this isn't Denny from The Room? Because to me, this all sounds in character.
Yeah, definitely.
He was one to giggle and clap his hands
and
in inappropriate times.
Watch people do awkward things.
That's true. Three's a crowd. And then Weir has another vision, this time showing what happened to his wife. Reality blinked and his soul twisted. The razor touched her wrist, slid down and along. Blood flowed freely. You made me notice the blood now. There's so much blood, like running water. Then the other wrist, harder this time, difficult holding the razor in the left hand, especially now. The razor dropped to the floor. Reality blinked, and he was standing by the bathtub, looking down at her, her hair floating in a wreath around her pale face. The water had turned a deep shade of red. Claire was gone. That was quite a difficult scene in the book, actually, when she cuts her wrist in the bath and he's sort of trying to stop her from doing it, but she's not listening. She's like, can't even see him there. Because
he's been a bit weird up until this point. Like, he's a weird guy. But I think from this part, that's when he goes full crazy.
And I sort of really thought about that scene too, because she's wearing underwear. She's topless, but she's wearing underwear. Yeah. And I thought, if you're going to kill yourself, you realise, like, someone's going to come and find your body. Do you, like, just go, well, I'm in the bath, I'm going to be naked? Or do you, like, go, just a little bit of courtesy to everybody who finds me?
Well, before she does it, she puts lipstick on and she shaves her legs quicker than Sam Neill does it. But
that's very true.
But yeah, she gets all prepped, but maybe she's just that kind of gal.
Yeah, just, like, keeping that little bit of modesty towards the end, but wanted to look nice for the whole thing. And I mean, it's a nice pair. It's not, she hasn't, just borrowed a pair of his black bikini ones.
Resisted.
Anyway, look, being in this film, this book, it's too much for Weir. He does what we all wanted to do.
Reality blinked. Weir raised his hands to his eyes. His nails sunk into the flesh, tearing. Blood streamed down his face. He began to scream, releasing the pain, the anguish, the terror, the rage. I am death, the destroyer of worlds. Exultant?
Exultant.
Oh, God. He was reborn.
He then proceeded to trip over every single bit of furniture. I am death, the destroyer of worlds. Bam! Ow! A little to my right. Fumbling for the doorway. And look, I know I made a lame uncle joke before, but I didn't know that this was coming.
The explosive charge was nestled in the clothing like a wicked uncle's idea of an Easter egg.
What? We're not so different, you and I, Mr. Author. Now, isn't that weird? Like a wicked uncle's idea of an Easter egg. Like, that's so strangely specific.
Yeah, because in this, it's in context, he finds a hidden bomb. I don't understand, what could be replaced with an Easter egg.
Even just the wicked uncle in the Easter egg, it's one of those things where someone comes up with, like, a metaphor or simile that they think we're going to just go, yep, roll with it, I get it, good way of describing it, but instead, it tells us too much about the person that wrote it.
Yeah, what happened?
Weir blows up the Lewis and Clark, and then he turns DJ into an art installation.
There was blood everywhere. Trays toppled, instruments scattered. DJ had been suspended in a cocoon of bandages and surgical tape hanging over an operating table at the far end of the medical bay. His throat gaped open. Miller walked closer. DJ's midsection had been opened neatly. He had been eviscerated, his organs placed in an orderly fashion on the open surface of the table.
There we go. Hannibal Lectered him. So, yeah, definitely has, even though things are heating up, definitely still has some time on his hands to arrange people in interesting forms. And then Miller frees the bound Stark, and Weir and Miller start their big old battle royale. As we head towards the climax, Weir was behind him, appearing with the silence and skill of a ghost. His eyes had been sewn shut, black lines of thread clumsily zigzagging across his eyelids. Lines of dried blood coated his cheeks and chin, marred his flight suit. His hands were blood red. Pronounced, overemphasized blood all the time now. Stark lunged sideways, trying for the nail gun. Weir moved like greased lightning. He's going to make all the girls scream, hitting Stark so hard that the navigator was hurled across the bridge into a bulkhead, stunning her. In the same move, before Miller could do anything about it, Weir snatched up the nail gun, aiming it at Miller's head, then shifting his aim to Miller's right eye. So eyes, as you said, constant theme.
Yeah.
But to make this rip-off of Aliens complete, Weir disappears out the airlock, although he does then reform in a tank somehow.
A face pressed up against the glass of the tank, grinning at her. Weir. She screamed, backing away. Weir's face had not finished forming yet. The skin incomplete, the white of bone showing through, muscle tissue flexing as he worked his jaw.
And Miller confronts Weir's final form. William Weir stood before him now, but this was not the Weir he knew. The body was larger, misshapen. The face was Weir's, but the skin appeared to have the texture of wood. Runes had been etched into Weir's forehead and cheeks. I am Groot. He is a wooden man. This is absolutely fantastic. And then Miller defeats him the only way he can, with irony.
He raised his fist, held it between their faces. Without irony, he said, "Go to hell." He pressed the second button.
But that was irony, right? Do I not know what irony is? I think it was ironic. I'm not sure.
Maybe he just wasn't aware of it.
And did you see this coming? Miller blows up the ship and sacrifices himself. No Event Horizon 2 for him. In fact, I'm amazed there hasn't been an Event Horizon 2. It seems like the kind of film they would remake now.
I've got a theory about the ending. I reckon there could be a second one.
Okay, I'm into this. Oh, well, because he'd go into the dimension, couldn't he, at the last minute or something? Or get sucked into... Yeah, of course. But Stark and Cooper and bloody Justin are the survivors.
Yeah,
They're
underdog.
safe. Yeah. But are they safe? Here is the ending. The astronaut bent to help her up.
"You're safe now," he said gently.
Her mind filled with thoughts of others. Cooper, is he... Justin?
"They're fine. They're with us." The astronaut reached up, undogged his helmet. "You're all with us now."
He pulled his helmet off.
Weir smiled at her, his darkened face covered with runes, his eyes strange and alien. "You're with us," he said softly, reaching for her.
She began to scream. Sorry, that was my fault.
They'd emptied...
So excited now.
They'd emptied the second tank and gotten the woman, Stark, onto a bio-stretcher, everything going fine until she'd opened her eyes and begun screaming for no reason that anyone else could see.
The rescue tech ministering to her turned around, yelling, "We need a sedative here!" He yelled very awkwardly, "We need a sedative here!"
Cooper, who had decanted in nothing more than his birthday suit, and
watch out, coffee mugs.
And had yet to put on a stitch of clothing, pushed the rescue tech aside,
With his cock.
grabbing Stark's shoulders, trying to get through to her, to comfort her. No one in the rescue team had a clue as to what had taken place here, only that it had been traumatic in nature.
"Stark, it's me," Cooper said, trying to break through her screaming.
"It's me. Come on now. It's okay. We're okay. We're okay."
But she had seen the face of the beast and had known it would always be with her.
She continued to scream.
Oh, and she's still, if we listen very carefully, she's still screaming now. The end. Or is it? Yeah, there hasn't been an Event Horizon 2, has there? If there has been, it would be like a direct-to-video kind of thing, but I don't think there has been.
No. Yeah, because the face she sees... is the face that he has when he's fighting Miller at the end. Because the last time she saw him, he had cut out his eyes. So when she sees his face in this scene, it's the new face. So I reckon that it's still a threat.
That he's still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, would you want to see, a chubby Lawrence Fishburne clawing his way back from hell?
Yes.
To fight a Sam Neill, who they would save a lot on makeup, because he's probably a little bit wrinkled and weathered and covered in runes himself at this point.
Lawrence Fishburne would have some sort of, he'd have, a limb that was missing that was now some sort of weapon, space weapon. And
Space hell weapon.
Yeah.
He'd be like Spawn, and he would have hell chains and stuff, and shoot hellfire.
Oh, he would be he'd been fighting in hell all this time, and now he's a pro at it.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah, I think this could definitely happen, and it would be really disappointing if it doesn't. and maybe someone else is making another Event Horizon, because that always happens. Like when people go, "Oh, it didn't work." Like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
They've made that park 4 times. Because, That's the great thing about humanity. We have hope.
It's an ongoing thing, Sam Neill.
Yeah, exactly. Sam Neill, architect of terrible ideas. And I do have to ask you, as I always do, Paris, this is a very important part of the proceedings, was the book better?
Oh, God. I'm going to say no, just because it took so long to get into the interesting part.
I kind of agree, because although in some ways, I've got to admit, the book does stimulate your imagination, and some of these things are quite horrifying, and you imagine a kind of mise-en-scene and everything, which is actually a lot more impressive than the movie. Like, my memory of the movie is, oh, this is really like quite a creepy, interestingly shot thing, and then I watch it and go, oh, it's actually sort of smaller and not as impressive as I thought, and these things don't have as much impact as I thought. But I still would rather watch the movie again than read this book again, so...
Definitely.
Movie takes it.
And you missed out the best... I know I kept saying my favourite line, but my actual favourite line...
You tease.
You got to do the voice when you say it as well. When they see him without his eyes and they're like, what's going on? And he's like, where we're going, you don't need eyes to see. Like, I will reference that in so many aspects of my life. And it's never in context. There's never a time you can really quote that. So I just love it, though.
Well, the thing about space, very black. There's no set directions, like up, down, left, right. Yeah.
Well, there's no furniture to bump into in hell.
Yes. Look, of all the taglines that could be on this poster, maybe that's the one. An Isle of Sam Neill on the poster. In hell, there's no furniture to bump into. I got to read you some Amazon reviews.
Yay.
Because some people did have some opinions on this. It's been a while since I wrote these in, so I don't even remember them. Let's discover them as we go. The writing is excellent, tight, appropriately gloomy, with good physics, and I cared for the characters, but the developments are not for the faint of heart, the religiously superstitious, or for a midnight reading. How much of it was real and how much tricks to force you onto suicide. The
Nearly succeeded.
Holy One also behaves in mysterious ways. Where did the ship go in the end? I don't care as long as it is far away from Earth. The sad thing is, no character gets away unscathed. I actually think when you're watching a horror movie, especially one of these ones where everyone gets picked off one by one, it would be sad if all the characters got away unscathed. You'd want your money back at the end of it.
No, people are going to die, otherwise it's not scary.
They're all on the Lewis and Clark with their faces pressed against the windows like street urchins going, it's a really spooky looking ship. And Sam Neill's like, yeah, I was really keen to go and retrieve it. Not so keen now.
Maybe that's where he thought the book was going, and that's why he did 20 pages of face shaving.
I just want to go home. Yeah, let's go home. I read some of the bad reviews that are already on this website concerning this book. After reading the reviews, I decided that the bad reviews were unfounded and were left by people who just didn't get the book. I'm going to raise my hand and join that crowd, that club. Did not get it. Just really didn't. Here's another one. I have purchased Event Horizon the book. It does not even merit the energy worth opening. It does work very well as a fire starter. I felt cheated out of my money. Trust me, the movie is better. The book was written after the movie just to make extra profits. Can you imagine all the money this book must have made? If you want a good sci-fi book, get something from the Alien series or my personal favourite, Doom, books based on the game. Forget your Philip K. Dicks. Any of that stuff. Doom is where it's at. Come get some.
I don't know, how much energy does it take to open a book?
Well, he doesn't know. Can you imagine a book that you order, and he felt cheated out of his money. This is probably like $5 he could have bought. I don't know, what could you buy like nothing with? And it arrived and he just looked at it and went, I don't know. I'm not even going to open it. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm disappointed. Did he not like the font or something? I don't know. He didn't read it. And finally, I can completely understand how poltergeist activity can on the salvage ship. Normal people put into a tense atmosphere, tired, cranky, with serious personal problems of their own, on a ship they don't like and or openly hostile to, are a disaster waiting to happen. It's called TK. Okay. Yes.
So do you like it?
Well, it's more coherent than the opening paragraphs of the story. So, I like it. He's obviously got he or she has a scientific mind and has approached this, looked at the phenomena that takes place and said, yes, Event Horizon is a plausible thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
It probably will happen if it hasn't already.
He's probably planning it himself.
It's called TK.
What does that mean?
TK. It's called TK. That's all you need to worry about. That's enough, right? TK.
I don't understand. It's making me scared.
It's like, is it something? I bet it's something to do with like telekinesis or
Well, he struggled with poltergeist, so maybe he was just like, I can't spell these crazy, scary words.
TK. Called TK. I can't think what else it might stand for.
I'm gonna Google that when I get home.
Titty knockers. Probably not. All right. So that's the show. We did it. We did everything we needed to do. We've checked all the boxes. How was it? Was that all right?
Yeah, it was fun.
I know it's always like a little bit sort of strange at first. You kind of like got to find a way to pitch it, and it's like, oh, what is this thing? What is this strange, wonderful thing? But then you just got to wrap it around you like a blanket and you enjoy it.
Definitely.
So you'd be back in the future?
Yes.
Excellent. I think maybe I'll have to buy Josie and the Pussycats.
Yay!
Because that sounds like a lot of fun.
That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, all right. We'll pick that one up. Okay, well, that's really good. That's a high bar looming in front of...
Good contrast as well.
Zach there for next... Yes, Zach and I next week are doing Noah, based on the 2014 film by Darren Aronofsky. So it's got Russ Crowe, another proud Australian.
Yeah.
Go, get in that arch, you bastards! And I imagine that we will treat that subject matter with all the sensitivity that it requires.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you wouldn't have it any other way.
No, based on a bestseller, I hear.
Noah? Yeah. I was like, the movie? No.
Yeah, kind of is. Very popular book. Some people would say the only book. Well, 143 episodes in, I beg to differ. A lot of great books out there. This wasn't one of them. Thank you for listening, everybody. Please listen to our other shows. The other show is FP Cast. That's a pop culture podcast. Every Monday, Jacinta and I talk about films we've seen and news, etc. We've got another podcast from our American friends on Fruitless Pursuits called Star WTF. And when there's a new Scarlett Johansson movie, I do ScarJo a Go-Go, and you can go through the archives and listen to me talk for about 30-odd hours about Scarlett Johansson's performances and about like female roles in movies and all sorts of interesting analytical things. It's not me just going, oh, Scarlett Johansson is just a dreamy... No, I'm not. No Brohansoning allowed on that show. It's very, very smart stuff. And if you're a really big supporter, you can support us on Patreon, and we are using that money to promote the show and to try and get audience aware of what we're doing. So, yeah, and fruitlesspursuits.com is where you go to that, or go to our Facebook page. We've got a group, and we're friendly. Join in, discuss stuff. We'd love to hear what you thought of the show and get to know who you guys are, because meeting people, you never know what happens, right? Like, Look at this. Here we are doing this show after a chance meeting, like, what, a year ago or something? It's amazing. We're quiz night murderers. We are out there with all the knowledge. It's amazing. So thank you, yes, so much. Is there anything else you wanted to say, do, plug? Any controversial opinions you'd like to share with the listeners?
Oh, no, I'm just overwhelmed by that wave that was Event Horizon.
Yes,
Just all go shipped out.
A lot to ponder.
Yeah.
Definitely. It really, really sticks with you. Okay, well, you get to say the lame sign out there if you can remember it. Catch you on the flip.
Catch you on the flips.
Jumanji.